Welcome to another roundtable video for general One Piece discussion and other things at Underworld Games. Today we're going to talk about within the last month-ish, locals results from, say, I think it's like December 12th up to what will be January the 9th.
Just say the locals matter.
The locals matter. Our locals matter. It's not all the same everywhere, don't say stuff like that. I have with me Szilvester and
the usual co-host.
The usual co-host Szilvester. I have my brother, renowned games player. We might call you that later in the video. Who knows? With Matty, he was just there. Okay, cool. So within the last month at locals, what we saw everywhere else was that in the Eastern meta there was a lot of general teach play.
Yep. In
our meta at all, it was very, very, very difficult. No one was even contemplating playing it. I mean, the week before, and with the rumour being that teach was very good, a lot of people would have thought to play it.
Yeah.
Well, you also could consider that everyone was just not going to be that guy.
So
we'll go into that later on.
Yeah,
that guy.
We can go into that thing. I think the main point when it comes to like what people consider playing is based on the difference in obviously mentalities, which comes from cultural differences. So this is obviously you can call me whatever words you want to, but people in general in Asia, they have better mental skills when it comes to counting. They are much better at math, and it is reflected in studies from all from all educational studies. So they have a bit of an easier time remembering and organizing the bottom of the deck, which Teach is one of those decks where you need that level of skill to organize the bottom of your deck with every single search, so that by the time you go to the end game, you are drawing into the exact cards that you need. And that is the skill gap that sort of determines what people are going to play.
Well, that's true. I feel like this is almost just like almost like a revisitation of Sakazuki. It's not the same, granted.
Yes,
but it's a similar skill level. Yeah. Which is why Sakazuki had such great success.
Yeah. So obviously the major difference with Sakazuki is that deck was relatively easy to play, as you needed to play into a curve. It was very much a pattern play deck, but Teach requires crucial decision making, which again requires the fundamental skills in One Piece, which are when to counter, what to attack into, which characters to attack with, resource management skills. So very, very polished fundamental skills are needed to play Teach well. And also the other thing that people are struggling with is deck knowledge.
Yes.
So Teach requires a level of deck knowledge where you need to know what your opponent is playing. So if you sit down to, let's say, a Purple Luffy or Shanks, then you need to know what cards they are playing at for guaranteed, and what cards are there that they can play, and then make a set decision when you see a certain card of like, they are playing that build, I'm gonna have to play like this. And if you make this decision too late on in the game, that will cause you a loss.
Yes. So, with that being said, in general, as you can see from the camera above, there is currently 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes.
So 4 OPO9 set leaders have obviously come through. It's top 3. Players range from, let's say, 6 up to 16. It's not always guaranteed.
Yeah.
But a lot of with what you see with the results, I believe, is that there's a lot of Shanks within that. Well, Teach a bit more recent. We'll go into that later. But then again, I suppose I'll throw out a different question, I guess, to you guys. Before Set 9 was released, out of the 6 leaders, what were you actually wanting to play? Because that also factors into, like you say, what turns up at locals. From what I remember hearing, a lot of people were, I might play Teach, but then there was a lot of people also on that I'm going to play Shanks. There was always that split. Every other leader was very much not mentioned.
Just as a general reference point, it's been 5 Shanks. in the
Yeah,
top
it's very,
three.
very heavy.
Yes.
That's why I was referencing.
And it's getting to the point in the competitive scene as well where it is being reflected.
Yeah.
And I think it's getting to a point of irony that the results that we see at locals are to an extent reflected from the competitive scene. So we are getting more results from the Western meta where Shanks is getting into top 16s, top 32s. Shanks is doing very, very well.
It's also very consistent, though.
Yes.
That's the reason why it does so well. It's very consistent in doing what it does.
So set 9 feels a lot similar to the set 1, set 2 meta, where the decks and colors play into their set archetype and do the things that they want to do, which is good because it's a go back to the very beginning of the game, the fundamental states, the glory days.
Before we had yellow.
When a Rush Zoro SR was 25 to 30 quid. But then also the decks are good, no objection on that. My issue being is that I've heard a lot of people calling most of the new decks and the decks that are currently in the top 4 as crutch decks, meaning that it's very easy to play them.
Yeah.
And if you have good fundamental skills in the game, it's again very easy to do well with them at major events, which is again reflected on the results that we see. So Doflamingo still very good, even with Teacher Round. Doflamingo is still in the top 4.
Yeah.
Purple Luffy, same extent. The new structure deck,
Yeah, really help.
absolute help. Shanks, it's a beast.
Yeah.
Shanks is a beast of a deck, and there is no way of building it wrong. Because it just has a very, very strong core.
Well, there is. You just don't put any red hair Shanks cards in it. That's how you build it wrong.
Well, there's that. It didn't answer what I asked. So, like I say, OP09, what were you interested in playing before it happened?
Shanks.
For you,
Yes.
with Shanks, with the amount of people saying Teach, I moved more towards Lim personally. It was an interesting concept, and again, I play a lot more chaff decks than proper decks. You, I believe, played a lot more Nico Robin. You've even done a deck profile on this channel about it.
The moment I saw the Nico Robin leader, I was...
You're a big Nico Robin stan, though.
I was sold, yeah. Robin is very fun deck, but funnily, I was also interested in playing Teach.
Yeah.
I like the character. I like his original ability, the Dark Fruit. I think it's quite interesting and plays into how he acts in the series, but then also the way the leader works is unique in its mechanic.
Yeah. Well, so going from that.
Also requires its own separate playstyle.
That
No
too.
more
Yeah.
on plays, which a lot of decks in the earlier metas, everything was about the on play.
Yellow was heavily reliant
Include
on
that,
yes.
that includes Rush. I know Rush is a different thing to on play, but if you consider that everything up to this point has been on plays and Rush.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yellow was very, very heavily on. If you think that the 10-drop ace was on play, it had rush if you put a life in, if you were at 2 or less, then it rushed.
10 cost Big Mom.
10 cost Big Mom was always an
Add a
on play.
life.
That
Opponent
was
loses
at
a
that
life.
point in time. That was such a in OPO 3. If you had that and you could go back to back to back, you had 3 life extra, and your opponent lost 3 life extra.
That was
it. Basically ended
that
the
was
game.
game winning. Yes.
It's like you say, Teach. Oh, no one plays. You then have to. Right now, I can't just 10 drop every turn. It's play a very, very different game, which is what you see. Maybe more when you start to look at the results towards the last couple of weeks, since obviously there is a person playing Teach.
Yeah, that one guy.
Again, someone has to be that guy. Right, so do you want? Let's have a look at the local results then, because like I say, it's always worth like going through it and.
It has been interesting because what we see is like, yes, there are these crutch decks that are easy to pilot and are strong, but then just below them you have these rogue decks that are a bit overlooked, and I think people should play more of those decks.
So go on then. What's week 1, which is what week commencing
16th of the 12th, 24.
Okay.
So we're starting in December.
Yeah.
And this was the top 3, as you can see. First, second, third.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's what you would expect.
Very.
I think it's a very good description of what
Yeah, that's
Set
going
9
really
meta
well, yeah.
looks like. If you were to replace Luffy with Doflamingo or Smoker with Doflamingo,
Yeah.
I think you would get a very accurate depiction of what Set 9 looks like at the
But
moment.
the big surprise here is it's this
Probably over
instead
Teach,
of this.
Yes,
I'd say so.
Yes.
And even then, that might have done something like this.
No, but even if it's not necessarily Teach, it could have been Lucci. Because Lucci is only really...
Yeah.
It is mainly stifled by something like Teach.
But it's an accurate depiction of what
The colour meta looks like.
the color distribution in the meta looks like.
Right.
Yes.
So that's week. So that would have been on Thursday, I think. So then is the 19th next?
Yes, next is the 19th.
I
where
think
we
we
have-
were very... It was a lot more lower on players, that being the week of Christmas. Is it the 19th or is it 20th? Oh no, the 19th would be the Thursday. Sorry, the Monday was the 16th. Thursday would be the 19th. The
Yes.
23rd was the Monday. So this is essentially this is still first week of,
Yes.
after pre-release.
Yes.
So then we come to the 19th. We have in first place you've got Yamato. In second place we've got Lim.
Yeah,
and in
James Conner
third
and then,
place
yeah. Okay.
we've got another Shanks.
So this is where I think maybe people looked at Lim a little bit more because I think there was 2 players playing Lim that night
Yes.
actually.
Yes. We.
Well, what you also have to remember is Lim's a relatively cheap deck to assemble right now.
Yes.
So it's great for the newer players. Go, okay, I want to play something new. I want to play something that's in the meta. Hey, that deck's cheap. The cards are so cheap to play. It's a relatively easy deck to pilot.
I think also at that time of that week, I think it topped in Japan.
Yes.
It topped Japan and the deck list came
Yes,
out.
I think it did.
And that's why everyone... I mean, don't get me wrong,
However,
I looked at it a bit before.
The one
but it was
caveat to
very
that is that was OPO 10 Lim. Whereas,
Yeah, that's OPO 10. I mean,
whereas-
it's very different, yeah.
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 But it
The
gives you-
deck list will change when that hits.
But it gives you the information. If you're looking at OPO 10, it will show you a lot of pieces that you already need, and then it's just a case of filtering a couple in
Yeah.
when you get to O10. Yamato top in is a bit... That's a bit strange. Well, I mean, not strange, but it's a good aggro deck, but
Honestly, Yamato is one of those decks that people have forgotten about a little bit.
I think with Vonnie being the thing, it was
yeah.
It was probably a bit of a shock and awe with that.
yeah.
Yeah, so Yamato is one of those decks that I would like to call a skill check deck.
Yeah, you have to be able to play around it a
Yeah,
lot.
so Yamato is one of those decks where you sit down in front of your opponent and, oh, you're playing Yamato.
Yeah, you have 2 or 3 different builds for
And,
Yamato, don't you,
yeah,
as well? so it's
and
what you're looking at.
it's a test of skill. It's not necessarily about how good your deck is. It's more about decision making, on when to counter out, what to attack into. So fundamental skills. I think Lin is another one of those decks where it's not necessarily how good of a deck you are playing, but rather how good of an individual player you are.
And yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know how to play Lim.
Yeah.
You know how to
Yeah.
play Lim because you understand the mechanics.
Not just Lim, but how to play the game itself.
Okay.
So it comes down more to who has better fundamental skills when playing these, especially these dual colored leaders that start with a
Yeah, handicap with a full
Yeah,
life.
exactly.
But it has the synergy that can work with itself. So what's the next week, which would have been Christmas week, which would have been the Monday.
Yes, we have the 23rd of the 12th.
So I believe, if I'm correct.
Yes,
Yep.
you are correct.
oh goodness sake.
I believe. I think there was an agreement in the group chat that we have that everyone was
Yeah.
going to play a more rogue decks essentially.
I thought
Less
the-
meta was what
And
I
wasn't
read.
wasn't the objective in the group chat to finish in the worst possible place you could?
I don't know. I didn't look at the group chat.
That
much.
was
I wasn't playing that night, but
it was a running joke.
I
probably,
wasn't
yes.
able to attend that night,
yeah,
which
me too.
upset me a bit.
yeah,
But
yeah, it was a bit of a running
I
joke.
was quite happy to see. Obviously, when I did ask the question, it was like,
Yes.
"Oh, who won?" It was, "Oh, Hurdy Jones." It was like, "Oh, damn."
So again, we see Shanks
Yeah.
doing rather well, and it's reflected from Big Meta. Big surprise is Hody Jones.
Yeah, I was gonna say Hody's.
well,
it's,
you say it's a big surprise.
again, it's one of those where it's like you need to know what he wants
it
to do.
really isn't. When you know the players at our locals,
Yeah.
we know someone that uses this exclusively.
Yeah.
I
Same, to be fair, same with the Uta as well. We know
So-
someone wants to make Uta really good, and it's
The reason why I said Hody is a big surprise is because we are starting to see in spoilers and leaks more leaders that are going for Fishman.
Yeah,
So
the most recent spoiler being the 3 leaders from EVO 1.
yes,
EVO
so
1 EVO 2, sorry.
yes, so
being
EBO
Jinbei.
yeah, so EBO 2 has
Jinbei and Shirahoshi.
no, those are set 11.
Are they set 11? I thought
Yes.
they were EB.
No,
'Cause the red-
Shirahoshi, Jinbei, and the Luffy, they are set 11.
I'm sure I was watching something earlier
I'm
today.
going
It
to
was
say
EB.
I'm going to say EBO 2 because that's what you said to me earlier.
I'm adamant it was EVO 2, I saw.
Okay, we will confirm later.
We can confirm that in a minute
But
when we get
yes,
a second. That's
so
and we've got our person on their device.
Yeah.
Checking.
point being is Hody Jones, Green, Fishman.
Yeah.
The archetype has some good cards and it is starting to receive more support.
Yes.
So it wouldn't surprise me if at some point we would have an Arlong deck, which is green and yellow,
Yes.
fulfill the role of a Yamato and get into a top 16 when
Yeah.
all this support comes out.
It's OP 11.
Oh, well, okay. That's what it would be, but okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. OP 11.
No, that's fair enough. I'll put it on stream when I've got it, because I say screen's easier to do. Whether it be this one or... It'll probably be on this one, to be fair.
But yes, so which I was on about a bit earlier, is that there are archetypes that are slowly getting more and more support, making them more viable in the current metagame, which is good because it will liven up the playing
Yeah,
field.
we should be seeing more. Like I say, it's nice to get a leader like Shanks come in and it has all of its support ready made. But
Yes.
it's nice to see a lot of the older leaders getting a bit more love from
Yes.
from the creators of the game and the people who make the cards, which is obviously nice. What is the opinion of the RP user that obviously came second? Was it a bit of a miracle run? Like I said, we
Yes.
don't know what I don't know what it played. It's very
I
much
think
based
it
on-
was a miracle run. From what I know, it was a meld of film and Red Hair Pirates, where the film engine was getting you the blockers, the counters, and the
ramp.
Uta searcher
crash.
that was then finding you the Red Hair Pirate stuff, which was your end game.
Well, also if you think that you also have the trashing of the film cards, so you obviously have to have it for the ramp
Yeah.
aspect of it. But yeah.
So it was a weird combination of film and Red Hair Pirates, which worked out well because you were able to bridge from one into another. So you can go from film searcher into a Red Hair searcher,
Yeah, with
But-
being able to search the user out via
Yes.
the film. Yeah. Okay.
but I want to call it a miracle run.
Okay.
I think Uta, as it is now, with the amount of film cards that are out there, on its own, not really a deck that I would consider playing. Further down the line, with more support coming out, it can potentially make a comeback. And then again, Shanks is just...
Yeah, Shanks is Shanks. Well, we can avoid talking more Shanks. Actually.
Yes.
It comes up enough. We know.
Until
what's
this
into-
next 3,
Was it Shanks, Shanks, Shanks?
where it's Shanks. Purple Black Luffy.
Okay. Oh, right, of course, yeah.
Sado.
This will be one.
Sado.
We'll talk about it loads. Okay, so winner of the locals of the, what was it? Must have been the 20th. It's the 30th, isn't it?
2nd of the 1st. 30th we were closed.
Ah, yes, it was the Thursday again. Yes, the renovation was happening on that 6th or the 2nd. So, the locals winner for the Shanks build of,
Yeah,
that, of
I
this.
was, I was that guy that day.
Yeah, so you obviously with your run. So, what did you? What was it? 3 rounds, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Only 3 rounds. So 3 matches. Was there a bye? I'm assuming I'm supposed to ask.
There
this.
was a buy. Szilvester got it.
That's absolutely
which
fine.
Which is why this finished so high.
That's fine. I'm just asking the question before I get other questions. Fine. So what did you play into with your Shanks build? So you must have had what matchups?
These were my matchups.
Okay. What was it in order of like first round upwards? What are we doing? I'm just asking because is
I'm
that
just-
the final round?
Yeah, because I played Connor first,
Yeah.
then Bean,
Yeah. Then Danny.
then Danny.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So when it came to the first round, I just went off. My removal was just hitting the board constantly, and his board didn't exist.
Yeah, it doesn't come through.
I was KOing his 9 costs for fun.
Yeah.
His board was empty. He was dropping. He was constantly dropping adios, and I was constantly removing them. He could not sustain a board against me, and I walked through to the win so easy. But
that's what happened
But
with
that is
Shanks,
what
though.
you expect
Yeah.
in this.
It's a control red deck.
I-
Yeah, it's very expected.
Yeah.
That's what
When
you
he
do.
sat down, I was like, well, If I see the right cards I
Yeah.
need here,
But then,
this is game.
but then again, in the same vein, if Lim sees the right cards as well, if it
Yes,
can drop
which-
9, if it drops 9 Zorro and it sticks, then
which
I think
actually
it very
happened
much-
the other day when I
Yeah.
rematched Connor with the exact same matchup. He absolutely walled me because I did not see the cards I needed to remove his board.
It's very. I think it's a very 50-50 match, Lim and Shanks. If you've got the removal, then I think you win. But I think if Lim gets the right cards and you don't see it, Lim can just run. It can heavily go through with Zorro being its top end. Adio is a good card.
He didn't even need the top end. He played mid game.
Yeah, because I think Doflamingo is such a solid card.
He went down Lim, then the Dofi. It was just those two constantly swinging at me every turn.
But they restand, and then you need the removal
Yeah.
to then keep going. So in round 2, Kalgara.
I'm starting to. I didn't play Calgary round 2. I played Matty with Lucci.
Oh, is that his OPO3?
Oh,
Luigi?
yes.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
because
Yeah,
I'm getting confused because this was on the table next to me.
That's fair enough then. So you played OPO3 Luigi.
So I played OPO3 Lucci here,
Yeah.
which was a very fun.
Yeah,
Meme
it was a
deck.
very
It was a
meme
very
deck.
fun meme.
We
But-
played in practice the Lucci, and we saw what it was about. It was a very interesting take on Lucci, though.
When he went for game, and I just had far too many cards in hand, and the life that came out was a 2K. His hand had dwindled to the point of he needed to go for and kill me then,
Yeah.
and he just couldn't.
Okay, that's fine. So then the last matchup,
The last matchup, and I'll be honest with you, was the best one by far.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to put any of my other opponents down, but when I was playing with this in the final, I was scared, mainly because my opening hand was a brick,
Okay.
and it was my ability to honestly
Play around, essentially.
it was playing around it, but also playing through it.
Yeah.
Turn 1, I played out a building snake. Turn 2, I played out a hongo. Turn 3, I played out a second hongo.
Yeah,
It's
you,
not-
you even have a lot of resources, especially since Hongo's
Yeah.
2K. So yeah.
So
you have some
I've
resources.
straight away I've dropped out 2 2Ks, which are very easily removable,
I think the thing with Purple Black Luffy is it doesn't really play too heavily into removal.
and I think that's where I was lucky.
Yeah. It plays more into ramping itself than it does to removal.
At that point, the turn after, I tapped both of those hongos and then KO'd a 9-cost Rush Luffy.
Yeah. Because if you've got like
Yeah.
Beckman
So the way I saw it was, well,
Yeah.
I've got the power reduction here.
well, maybe that's
Let's
the way
start doing some damage, and that's when I started removing his board, and that's when the scale tipped.
Yeah. Because you're a defensive leader anyway, so a 5k swing isn't too much well, but replacing a big 9 cost is a big thing for a Purple Black player probably to go with. Okay. So with that, are we going to move? We'll move to the next week. That being the
That
week
would be,
January. We're now on. Are we at Monday's results from this week?
yes.
Will be, I'm assuming, the 5th or the 6th.
6.
Ooh, Teach.
Oh no, it's
It's
that one.
Okay.
Yeah. This is the.
This is where we talk about the one player.
Yeah, that
We'll,
one
we'll
guy.
start. We'll start
that
because
one guy.
the one player playing Teach, played both matches into Purple Luffy and Green Purple, and that would be myself. Due to I quite like the look of Teach when it was announced, and was thought that's a very different style deck. I thought it'd be but with a lot of people rumbling and talking about playing it, I thought okay, I'll back off and I'll look into Lim a bit more. And then the opposite happened, and everyone went more into playing Lim than Teach, and with so little with no representation.
No,
for
literally
Teach.
no one has played
No one.
Teach at our locals until this one guy did it.
I thought, right, I would like to get some representation because it is part in the Japanese. It is part of the meta, and it's like, right, we've got no. I mean, we've not seen Dofi actually, to be fair, in a couple of weeks.
That's
Blue
not,
Dofi.
That's
which
not
is-
a bad thing though.
It's not a bad thing, but it is something that should be there. So I'm surprised no one has played it. But I played Teach with a brief tutorial. Let's say the odd one game
Hello.
from our judge Szilvester, explaining what I'm looking for to keep, and like I said, counting cards. Not very good at counting cards personally. I don't really count it now. It's more playing what I've got.
You got to play on instinct.
Play on instinct, yeah, on what you're playing. Round 1, I know I played this. Don't get me wrong, very, very tough match. Very good game though, I will happily admit. It more resolved on me being able to. I took a lot of life. I went to 0, knowing that I could sustain, but just keep removing. It is a very much you have to know what cards you're looking for in Teach and what you're willing to get rid of. to the point where, I say, it wasn't recorded, but I wish I had recorded that game. It was that good. Lim, very much easy. If you, again, it's on video, the 3 rounds that I do play after. Lim, if, again, I think my opponent Connor, he plays Lim a lot. Once he was realising that whatever he played out, I was removing, he was just swinging 15, close to 15 every turn, just trying to hit life. And don't get me wrong, I was taking it, I was quite healthy with that. It eventually, again, wears out once you have the cards you need on board. The winner, who I played round 3, Matty with his Monkey Luffy. Yeah, it was tough. Even without his on plays, he was swinging 6s, 7s, even 8s, and I didn't have the board removal to keep going, and it was a hard game. I think that's a bad match for Teach, even unless you have certain cards, and it's very hard to maintain, which I think you would agree with. And I think my final game I played, which is off to the right, was someone who plays Smoker, and it's when they've never played Teach, and they don't, like you say, you pitch card every turn, and a lot of black cards are getting the spot with activate main and all attacking. You do see them cards in the format, but his Smoke was built primarily for on-play destruction, and when you remove that from board, if he was playing his 2K Virgos just because it's something different, because he's like, well, I'm getting no value out of the cards I have in hand, and Virgo it can't be KO'd on battle, and it's like, well, unless I'm KOing with effect, if I run out of that, then he keeps it at least. But no, so
it shows that again, he's one of those players who plays for the sake of playing and enjoying the game.
But,
and also not having those fundamental understandings of
that's what I'm saying.
If you just play out a card and not get the effect, it's still more value.
Yeah, it's basically
than not playing it out. Yeah,
but that's the difference. Like I say, with nobody playing Teach, he said the player did confirm to me during or towards the end. They said he's only played Teach once, and it wasn't a very, optimal list for it. It was because the player doesn't have Laboons are worth 20 quid, just the standard Laboon. It's £20 to go. So if you can understand that it costs a little bit to build Teach, if you're not playing the full optimal, you don't understand how much of a grind it can be. And that's why I think a lot of players don't play it. And you're saying it's because of the ceiling. A lot of people are like, oh, it's like playing Nami. It's like, it's boring. I'm playing nothing. You're playing yourself. It's not really worth it. But reality, in my mind, if I played into a Teach from a different deck, I'd be very much on this, right, how am I playing my deck in a way that it can play around Teach a bit more? Even if, like you say, it's just, oh, I have no one play, but here's a 3 for 5 vanilla, essentially. It's still a body. It might not be the body you want, but at least it's something.
Yeah.
Which I think I played a game after with the person playing Smoker, and he actually won because he was, I'm just going to play bodies out. It's like, that's what you should be doing. Yes. You shouldn't just be thinking, I have no options. You have an option. You still develop board like a normal player.
Yeah, don't just be dropping 15k swings on your opponent's leader.
Like Lim was, it's just dropping 15s. Yes, I remove the cards, but if I don't have the removal and you've got rid of it, it's the opposite essentially.
But by the point of you've lost all your life, you're on 10 dons, here's these 12k blockers that are also removing effects and stopping other things from attacking.
Yes, but again, the 12k blocker, if you swing high enough, it does remove, because Teach relies on, you get to a point with Teach where you have nothing in hand. So it's very, very difficult to sustain keeping that blocker on board. It's more if you are establishing a big body and then using a swing, it's a free block for a Teach. But if you're swinging, say you establish like couple of low bodies, and then you swing, say, 12, or say you play a 3 cost and swing 12. You swing in 12, you force the block and pitch, and then you still got 3 for 5 next turn, or if it goes higher with its effects. I'm assuming that I played the Luffy, but it seemed like a standard Luffy deck from what I saw. It was very much what it was.
There is very little room in building Luffy different than what the deck should look like. Unfortunately, Luffy has reached a point where if you are not playing the exact cards in the exact ratio, you are going to have a more difficult time in winning the game. And I think that could be a small indication at starting to look at certain cards in purple, of like what generic cards are there in purple that promote this play style that Luffy plays into, that has resulted in everyone playing the exact same deck list at events.
Well, mainly if you're talking purple and more staples, it's not Straw Hat, but say the Mr. 2 Secret from EVO1, it's a stapled purple card you can play in any deck,
so
essentially.
generic cards that are universally good in any purple list.
Black Maria.
Black Maria is one of those ones where you don't necessarily have to play it.
But it's something that's universally goes in purple, which will do you a world of good
I think
in any purple
in a
deck.
deck that ramps as fast as that deck, I don't think you need it. That's why I think Bon Clay is probably more useful.
Yeah.
You play a different 2K.
Bon Clay is definitely more useful.
Yeah. So again, moving on to the next week. Well, later on in the week, it was Thursday. It was this Thursday. Yeah. I will happily admit, with the player pool was, I think it was 7.
Yeah.
I had to buy round 1, playing Teach. Again, I played both matches that came top 3. I believe you played Kalgara round 1.
I've played Kalgara round 1. Kalgara is one of those decks that is
Just fun to play.
it's fun to play and it's fun to play into. I think it's overlooked. Again, it's one of those decks that is overlooked, and
Yeah.
I think more people should give Kalgara a try at playing the deck because it is really fun to play.
Yeah.
The amount of game actions that you take during your turn, even
Yeah.
during a single attack step, is ridiculous. Like, it's a very interactive deck. It has really, really good mechanics built into it, and I think it should see more representation.
As someone who edited one of the videos with no audio, I will happily agree with that. Having a when attacking, to taking a life, to playing a 6-drop Kalgara, to using other, Viper, stuff like that.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
lot
yeah.
of interactions that go, and it's so fast together. Yeah, I'll happily agree with that statement.
There's also a lot of cycle.
Yeah, you get the cycle with that as well. That's a lot more to teach. I played Kalgara round 2, which propelled me to play the final round against Shanks. It's unfortunate that the Kalgara player had never, hadn't really played Teach. Only realised at the end of the game, once the game's near enough over and the control's been established on my side, that he realised maybe should have swung at the control, which again you will see in the video when it comes out. He left Van Olga on board, Doc Q was still there from turn 1, and you sit there and you think, right, that's what I need, my main removal engine. Because on the KO I draw a card, it gets me more cycle, but the aggression was really good, do not get me wrong. Kalgara ran me down to 0 really fast. But once you kind of get to that point, you have no on plays, you're not gaining life, unless you can bypass all of my cards, which again are on play cards, if you're using resting cards, which I don't think there are that many in yellow. It's very, very difficult to get through Teach.
You probably need to pay a life for it, which you're probably not really
that's what I
likely
mean.
to do.
Well, with Kalgara you do, but you're using your life you're gaining your resource playing a big body out, and if I'm removing the highest cost card in Kalgara, which generally is 6, unless you're playing like Ace or Yamato, it's really quick to remove. Laboon takes it straight to 2, I need 1 -1 and Doc Q's removing. Or if I'm playing the events, which is Finger Pistol 5 cost, it's removed. Black Hole 4 cost removed, and all effects gone as well, so anything.
Again, it came down to
Knowledge
person
of the
not
game,
knowing
yeah.
knowledge
Because,
about
again,
how the deck
due
plays.
to nobody playing Teach at our local, which is, I'm not saying I've took that to run it, but it's like I'll put it for representation. People are now looking a little bit more with their deck building. It's like, oh, if I play Teach, I now need to consider for this as well.
Yeah.
Which is what it was. Shanks. Winning.
Shanks.
Yeah, Shanks. I mean, we don't have to go to Shanks. I'll be honest, that match was rough.
I heard you got folded up and tossed out.
Yeah. My starting hand originally, it had the Lafitte Searcher. After I mulliganed it, 'cause I thought I had no removal in that hand, and I'm thinking into Shanks you need that removal in the early. I mulliganed into a hand that was Black Hole, Finger Pistol, Jesus Burgess, Van Orga. It was all really good cards for the middle of the game, but I had no early get, so no Doc Q, no Lafitte Search, no stage. I think I might have had stage. I can't remember. But either way, there was nothing I could have done. So I could remove. My opponent went Lucky Roo, turn 2, Lucky Roo again, turn 3. I could remove both of them with no effect, but I had no board to protect from it. So it was very, very hard to stabilise. And although I did get a 10 cost each on, it wasn't enough. I find that Shanks into Teach, I think Teach into Shanks actually is winnable. You need to see a perfect hand. It's very, very hard. You get the cycle to produce that. It's very, very difficult to keep doing it. Like I say, not having Doc Q, not having the Searcher.
It's exactly how you say. So I've I myself have played Teach a couple of times, and I'm staying away from Teach for my personal reasons. But Teach into Shanks is not an unwinnable matchup. It's a bit favorable more toward Shanks, but it's definitely something that you can handle.
Yeah.
It's all about just finding the right cards at the right time and knowing when to counter, really.
Yeah. Alright. So, the other cards situated that we have, we're going to move. Well, did we have anything else to sum up the locals of the last 4 weeks or so?
I think you should introduce what we're about to do next, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to go to. That's what the other leaders are here for. We need some other leaders. There's representation.
I think you need that one.
We need that, and
And
that.
you've got yours available.
I have mine just off screen. So we can call it. You can call it whatever you like. You can call this more of a deck lab sort of thing, where we look at different ideas, like I say, some representation you don't see in certain metas to what you can play. So, as I said at the beginning of the OPO9 meta, I was playing a bit more buggy, which is where the gameplay comes from there. No one really is looking at it. It gets better with the promos, which is unfortunate with the Japan already having it. It's a lot further forward. We don't know when we're going to get it in English. So
we don't even know if we are going to get
it. Exactly. So it's trying to find something that will work with buggy. So what I found with learning to play buggy was a bit different. Originally, I thought it was you use your leader straight away. So again, this is more of a deck tech idea. So you play yourself maybe a 1, maybe a 2. I don't see a world where you play it as a 4. Playing buggy, it was activate main. You pay 5. You can put your biggest cost character on board if you'd like. It doesn't say, but if it's buggy, if you're playing crocodile, you can cheat a bigger cast out for a short amount. But you're pitching the card, and that's where I found it being very difficult. Is that losing cards for a 5 Dawn investment? Yeah, you're getting 12 Dawn worth of body, but it's very hard to stabilize at your late game if that's where you go. So I found that playing buggy is more, you play on curve. You only start using your leader effect at 10. So if you're going at 5 Dawn, you play a 5 drop. You get to 7, you play a 7 into the 5. So you play 7 drop crocodile into another. And that's where this card comes in. So with your Mr. One Searcher searching a cross guild or a Baroque Works card, I find that this, as a 7 Dom play from your big 7 drop crocodile into it, and it plays a cross guild or Baroque Works card, you can get a 7 drop body on board with a 5 drop blocker. If you're playing on the Eve curve, you have 8 Don, you can put a Don on this, and it can then bottom deck on board. So if it isn't removed, and you're playing into a deck, maybe like Teach if they can't remove it, you can bottom deck a dot Q on a swing. You can get rid of something that is troubling on a board like that. You won't have the on-play effect, granted, if you're playing Teach, but into a deck that is maybe a bit more like Building Snake or
In
something
addition
like
to that, they won't get their card draw because you've bottom decked their card instead of KOing it.
Yeah,
exactly. So it's
bottom decking.
But into Teach it will not work because it's the on-play from the crocodile you won't get. But if you're playing that for 5 Don and you put a Don on it, it's still value. So I found that using this card as just a cheap way of doing it, it's a 7 into a 5. It helps with the leader, well, with your 10 drop buggy, because obviously your board wants to be full of 5s or more. And it also helps with, it gives you a blocker essentially. The deck I've built runs 4, 6, 10 blockers, maybe one more, I don't know. I'm sure it's about 10 because it's 2 of those crocs, 4 Magarettes, and then 4 Mihawk blockers. But playing it on curve works really well because if you're going, let's say you pay 5 Don for the 7, if you're playing at the end, you go 7 for 5, 7 for 5, you've got 4 bodies, turn after, then you play buggy. But that's kind of how I have looked into that. That's like my view on it. I think it's a very, very smart way of doing it. It gives you something different because a lot of decks I've seen for buggy, it is not very counter heavy, which is kind of bad when you think about it because in aggro decks that are swinging, you kind of need the balance for blue, and blue works very much with a balance, I think, especially when I was playing Boa before. I think Dofi's the only one that's a bit different. It's a very aggro. You have a lot of 2Ks because you're not blocking, you're just swinging constantly. It runs blockers a bit more now with Boa, but Ashes, again, these are just one of ideas to maybe change your deck a little, try something new at your local scene.
So my idea, I've recently been with the emergence of Teach at our locals because that one guy.
You keep looking at me like I'm the problem.
You are.
I think you're all the problem.
I was gonna be originally the
there
Teach
you go,
player.
Yeah. So, it's not just me, is it?
I just got cold feet, so to say.
Well, he chickened out.
Yeah, just say that.
He just doesn't want. Well, I completely understand it. You just don't want to expand the brain power.
Well, that's
expend the brain power.
Pretty
Yeah.
much.
I've been looking for a way of playing around Teach, and I've been looking at purple or black Luffy with my ability to increase my cost and cards that KO their board. I've also been looking at this little guy here for 2 Dons. It's not a big threat. It involves a Don investment to swing, but the returns, if it's not removed, every time a card is KO'd, draw 1, trash 1. This is card cycle. It's getting things out of your hand that you don't need in your hand, finding the things you do need in your hand. It gets you your counters, finds you your removal to counter their removal. And when you consider the leader effect of making all of your things bigger, making their life harder.
Yeah. Can see that, yeah.
It's a good idea, and I like the idea, and also it plays well into an idea, a team with a deck. Like I've seen the deck list, and there are like clear ideas going in there that are good synergies. But in general, really, just more cards like these, where you just drop it down, people just pick it up, and it's a common, and they have to pick it up, read of like, what on earth is this? They don't know, they leave it around, and then all of a sudden it just snowballs you into a win.
Yeah, because you don't know what. Again, you're seeing what your opponent's pitching, but you're not seeing what they're gaining. And if, like you say, if you're gaining what you're looking for, which is if it's removal you're looking for, if it's a blocker you're looking for, you don't know. Say you could be playing into a rush, but it's still something there.
At the end of the day, it's a card removed from their field, and it's an extra card added into your hand.
Oh yeah, exactly. And it's not only just. Is it just? The cards killed.
So
Okay,
it
it could be
works-
either,
it
so it could
works
be
on my
yours.
turn and your
Yeah.
opponent's turn.
Yeah.
So I KO something off you,
But it's not even.
I draw 1, trash 1.
It's not even card effects. That could be by battle.
Yes, exactly.
Everything. Any
That
form
is-
of KO is good.
I think that's one of the
Yeah.
things that people are not looking into, is that it's KO in general.
on either turn.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I mean. It's like both sides of it. So
Yes.
you get basically 1 free card cycle on your turn and your opponent's. If you're letting cards go, if they're KOing stuff, or if you're KOing stuff. The only thing that wouldn't worry me, I would sit there and think, is that blue has a very easy removal into it because it's only KO'd.
Oh,
Maybe even
yes.
trashing will remove it, but no, I 100% see where you're coming from. It's a really good idea, especially with your static on your Luffy, boosting it to a 3 cost. If you're playing other cards that boost it more, then yeah, it can go up to 5. Then it becomes harder to remove into something like a Teach if they activate main effects.
My main thought is, if my teach opponent goes second, they play down, or even if they go first, they're playing out their dock queue first. If they want to kill this,
Yeah, you have to invest.
you're going to have to invest just
A
to
lot
kill
more than you
this.
think.
And you look at this, you go, that's not a big threat until it is.
Yeah.
Or the other alternative is that what most Teach players want to do on their turn 1 is not establish dock queue, but rather
Defeat.
They
play
play
a Lafitte,
to search into it.
and then you can just drop that one down, swing into
Kill
the
the Lafitte.
searcher,
Yeah.
boom, you have a card draw.
Your opponent draws a card, but you then cycle.
Yeah, you can find more what you're looking for, which
Yeah.
is either another Laboon, knowing that it might get swung into next turn, with
Well-
it being a 2 for 4.
Well, that's the thing, you don't need to tap this.
No, I know, I'm
yeah.
aware. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's not like the other Laboon in EV, which is -4, but you activate main to tap it. Yeah.
The adult Laboon.
The adult Laboon,
Not the
sure.
little cute baby.
Thank you very sure.
Yeah.
Szilvester, would you like to go over your idea for
So
Teach?
I've been looking at Teach, and so I've been refraining from Teach because one, there are just too many people playing Shanks at locals.
Yep.
So playing Teach is kind of a suicide mission. But then also, when I look at the deck list that I have, like there is one deck list for Teach. Doesn't matter how much you try to argue, there is one deck list for it. If you do something else, it's suboptimal, considered by everyone.
I mean, from what I've seen on the Japan stuff and stuff like that, there are tweaks you can do, but there is a main 400% like 40
Yes.
card, 45 card engine. Then there's like 3 or 4 cards you can
Yes.
switch and change.
So-
But it becomes more or less consistent into certain decks.
Yeah,
and
so there
one of the
is
changes.
the list,
Yeah.
and then anything other than that is suboptimal. And what I was trying to do is try to go more into the archetype, especially with set 10, more support coming out for Teach. I was looking at cards released with the leader within the set to see which cards that are gonna be like older, released with the leader, which of them has more use, more value that could be considered to be put into the deck to turn the leader and the deck into something where you can't miss on a search.
Yeah.
Because most of the time with the top 3 card searchers, so Full LED and It Is My Time, there have been points where I have seen the event, a finger pistol, and then something else that I can't see, and then that's 3 cards in the bin. I have no access to them.
Yeah.
They are crucial, non-engine, off-type pieces that I need to see on the field to get rid of certain things, and now I just spent 1 don to get rid of them. So I am looking at cards that are within the archetype, do somewhere similar things, so that I can replace them and have a deck that is just 100% consistent, where every single search will result in net 1 card into hand.
Okay. So.
And one of them being is this little Teach, the young one. Now, bad thing about it is not Blackbeard Pirates.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a Whitebeard Pirates.
Yeah,
because
he was part
It's
of the Whitebeard
young,
Pirates.
yes, he's a young gun.
the Blackbeard Pirates had not been established yet.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what is it then? So activate main, rest this character. If the number of cards in your hand is at least 3 less than the number in your opponent's hand, draw 2 and trash 1. So it is specific.
Yeah.
However, if you're playing Teach how it is played and it's quite grindy, you are losing cards in hand every turn. So but that's again.
And
it's very,
then
very specific.
considering that you also pitch a couple cards
Yeah,
for
for the
countering
effects, yeah.
and effects, having 3 less cards less in your hand than the opponent,
It's quite doable.
it's not just quite doable. It's going to happen very soon. So right off the bat, you start turn 2 with 5 hands. Your opponent has maybe like 7. So
yeah,
at
only
that point,
playing 1 card.
at that point, all you need to do is wait for them to swing. You counter out. It's now 1 line on your next turn. Drawing 2, trashing 1. I was looking at it because the draw 2, again, somewhere similar to the top 3 searchers,
Yeah.
but it's something that I can't miss. So it can potentially find me those pieces like the Laboon and the Finger Pistol and some other bits that
If you're playing Manchu
Yeah.
and stuff like that, stuff that you cannot
yeah,
get.
things that help run the deck, smoothen out the curves. Again, issue, it's not Blackbeard Pirates.
You can't find it on the search, but if you're
yeah.
finding it
You
as
can find it with this.
yeah, it's more of a if you
Yes,
if you get it, you get it, and you could use it.
Yeah,
It's not necessarily so much you're searching for it. You're searching for other pieces, like you just said. You'd be searching Van Augers
anything.
and stuff like that. Anything like that. So is it more of a replacement then, as an idea? Maybe not as a replacement for.
For now, I tried it out, and with the way set 9 goes, Teach as it is now, I would consider it solved.
Yeah.
When set 10 comes out, I would be looking into using this tiny Teach
Yeah.
instead of some other off-engine cards,
Okay.
and I am really considering of making a 46 card deck that is all Blackbeard Pirates, and then that 4 off is the only thing that I can't find on a search.
Okay. Yeah. No.
With the amount of support that is going to come out in set 10 for Teach,
Yeah.
it's going to be very easily doable.
I think we were looking at some of that earlier, weren't we? And
Oh,
it was-
yes.
Some of it looks very good. Kuzan looks really good. Even there's a 6-drop event that if you don't have a board essentially and your opponent has 2 characters or more, KO's a 6 and a 4. It's really good, especially you can pay that and then you play another body out. Because you lose board as well if you think about it as a Teach player. If you're resting .q and stuff like that, you lose it straight away. You draw a card, but then okay, next turn.
Yeah, but it is how One Piece is structured as a game. Within a set, you always have 2 leaders that are Mimi, casual friendly. You have two that are going to be very relevant in the current meta, and then you have another two that are going to be relevant in the meta of the next set, because that is when they are going to receive all the support.
Right.
Teach being one of these, and Shanks is one of those ones that breaks the ice because it is relevant in the set that it was released, but next set is going to get some more support, and I am uncertain if there is going to be a update on banned and restricted list when we get to end of set 10 in Japan, seeing how the meta was forming there, how the decks have been doing, because I am now at this point where I feel like there should be a shift, a differentiation between East and West. So Eastern meta has their own ban list, given that they are a set ahead of us, very similar to Yu-Gi-Oh! That Yu-Gi-Oh! OCG has their own ban list. Western TCG has their own ban list. The two are completely different. So a card that is banned in the West is legal for set in the East. I think that could be something to liven up the game a little bit, just to prevent net decking. Because set 9 feels very much like every single deck that we are playing into, you can find the exact deck list online, even when someone's saying, oh yeah, I spent weeks on brewing this deck.
You can find it straight away.
You take 5 minutes and you find the exact list.
Well, like you say, you come to teach and it's solved.
Yeah.
Shanks is virtually. You can play it a couple of different ways.
Teach is solved. Purple Luffy is solved. Doflamingo is solved. At this point, the game became.
And then you've got the crazy people.
Yes, which I appreciate.
We are the crazy people.
Yes, and honestly, I appreciate these ones. These are unique takes on the game. I wish there were more people doing something similar.
Well, we appreciate when people do that. Like you say, seeing Hody Jones and RPU, like no one's going to that to national or even regionals. Anywhere close.
Locals and
I'm
major
more
event
intrigued
experience.
Whenever I load up and look at when I do look at the results in like regionals and watch videos on like the regionals, I'm more interested in the road decks than I am. Here's the same Shanks deck about 20 times over. It's the basic. I want to see something more like I'm trying to think of a random road deck.
Make Germa great again.
You can say all you like.
You wanna hear something funny?
More back in set 8, Egghead made like a 60, which was strange. You looked at it, this is cool, and you saw how it played. We saw a little bit how it played out in locals. I think the games went too long for me personally.
Uploading those videos was a poor pain in the bottom.
It really was. But that's what I mean. Seeing those decks is what I'm more interested to see than to say, like I say, maybe more than we'll see teach next. Like I say, there's going to be, it's solved straight away.
So about rogue decks in Birmingham regionals last year, I have played against. I'm hoping the player sees this video. If not, I wish you well. It was a really enjoyable game. The Chad was playing Rocinante. And they've gone 5-3. 5-3 with Rocinante, and the deck they were running, it was a really good take on the deck, and I have been considering playing the deck like that. But for now, I'm gonna keep Rocinante on a bit of a hold, play something else. But this is the thing, so there are these rogue decks that when you go to a major event, skill checks. If you don't know how to play into it.
One of the best ones I saw was Ivankov.
That too.
Just blue Ivankov,
just straight up blue Ivankov. That was last year in Wolverhampton.
Oh, okay. To be fair, I think I
was in the side event at the time, but he was he'd won like 3 games. Then he played me and got walled by the German.
Wow. It happens. You see more sport.
But that is what we need to see. So obviously there is an established like top 4, top 6 meta decks that when you.
I thought you were going to say toxic top 4.
It might also.
You could consider it a bit toxic.
It's a toxic top 4.
I consider it a bit toxic, given that all the decks are the exact same. And the thing is, when you look at major events, you will already know before even sitting down, just listening to all the announcements, you will know what decks are going to be in top 16. As you said, what I'm also more interested in, what decks are the ones that make it to top 64? Am I going to see this or that in there? Or
Well, even if you
am I going to see someone just scooping up, sweating blood, raging out of the building because they lost to a meme deck that you just don't understand how that game went like that?
Well, recalling actually another regional event, Foxy making a top 16. I mean, you
Yeah.
get all sorts, and it's really interesting to see that sort of thing go that far. Because the player obviously playing it has that much knowledge of how he plays his deck, but also his knowledge of how he plays into every other deck in the format.
And
it's similar to Teach in that respect. You have to know every single matchup kind of inside and out.
And that's what I meant very early on when we started this session, is that fundamental skills are now becoming very, very relevant, because you see a lot of, like, the game is expanding at a rate that I don't even think the developers and Bandai were expecting. The game is gaining new players with every event, with every set. And all these new players joining in, obviously going in with the mentality of like, oh, what's the best deck? What is the deck that wins? So they go for these relatively easy, like new player friendly decks like Doflamingo, Luffy, Shanks, that are just, the deck just plays itself. And it doesn't matter how good of a deck you are playing, if you don't have those fundamental skills, you will still lose to another deck that on paper, with all the objective terms, is worse and the weaker version of what you are playing. But the individual player skill will generate that gap that will decide who is the winner and the loser.
So I suppose we wrap up a little bit from here. Again, Underworld Games, we run events currently Monday and Thursday. Top 3 on Mondays. Normally Thursday's a bit more casual.
Thursday is more casual,
based. What are you going to be playing at next locals? I guess I'll throw that out there for people who are obviously going to be attending. I think I'll be there Monday. You're going. You're going in on that then, okay?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
You're going to try and solve that in the time.
I'm going to try and solve this.
Okay, well you got like a week and a bit, I suppose. That's fine.
I'm just gonna go back to my bay, Robin.
Okay. I don't know.
What's the choice, Matt?
I mean, it could be completely different.
One clown or the other.
Or Kinnaman.
I could go back to Kinnaman. I think that is a true skill check deck if you don't understand how that goes. We've practiced that game a lot.
It's such a headache.
It out banishes Robin. That's how quick it goes.
It is so dumb.
You don't want to.
So
You've
dumb.
seen my deck. And it's a very consistent deck, I will admit. It probably gets ruined by black a bit, but if you can fast pass it so fast with the cards you have, I've done the profile on the channel, same with the buggy. It's very 2 and 3 in terms of your card choices, but the 4 ofs, you're guaranteed that it runs you down really fast.
Yeah.
And it's so fast to replace.
It's a fun deck to play into. I admit to that. It's a fun deck to play into.
So I might play Kinnaman, who knows? If everyone playing Shanks, I might try and brush Shanks down before it gets a chance to play anything. If I get up to 0, let's go rest everything, swing for game for like 13. Try and get a win. You know,
we'll see.
Who knows? Until next time, I don't know. We'll probably sit down in another month, I would assume. Maybe not with our guest here, but maybe with somebody else.
Hopefully.
Matt, do you want to plug anything else? The Gundam game is currently released in July, but I think tickets are still on sale here for the pre-release event in February.
Yeah, so February, I want to say 15th. February 15, it is a Saturday, I believe.
It is.
Yes.
We have the beta event for Gundam. At this point, however, I believe the event is sold out and people are currently on a waiting list.
Oh, okay.
So...
Well, I suppose people can always go and check the waiting, join the waiting list
obviously,
just in case, you never know.
Check out the website.
Yeah.
If you see any events that interest you, please contact the store.
Yeah, I'm sure.
In general, it's a community place. If you want people to hang out with and play games that you both enjoy, it's a good place to come to.
And I say, if you're looking at events, you can go to underworldgames.co.uk to be able to order your spot online.
Book your tickets.
Book your tickets, yeah. And that's all. Anything else to say, guys?
Have a good evening.
Have a good evening.
Sure, have a good evening.